The message came on a Tuesday. Dr. Alan Burke was about to leave the SETI facility when the computers started beeping. He had worked at the Nevada station for 15 years without a single real signal. Most days were spent listening to the empty hum of stars and space dust. Not today. "Lisa, come look at this," he called to his colleague across the room. Lisa Green put down her coffee and walked over. Her eyes widened as she stared at the screen. "Is that what I think it is?" The pattern was unmistakable. Regular, deliberate, mathematical. It repeated in perfect intervals that could not happen in nature. "Someone is talking to us," Alan whispered. Within hours, the facility was filled with government officials, military personnel, and scientists from around the world. They worked for days to decode the message. When they finally did, it was both simple and terrifying. A set of coordinates and a time. The aliens were coming, and they had already picked a meeting spot. "What do we say back?" asked Lisa during one of the emergency meetings. "Do we invite them? Tell them to stay away. We need to be careful." Major Frank Howard, who represented the Joint Military Forces, leaned forward. "I suggest we keep it simple. We send one message. We are waiting for you." The room erupted in argument. Some thought it was too aggressive. Others worried it was too welcoming. The debate lasted for weeks as governments around the world tried to agree on a response. "I don't understand why we'd say that," Lisa told Alan as they walked back to their lab late one night. "It's so unclear. Are we threatening them? Welcoming them? What are we trying to say?" Alan stopped walking and looked up at the stars. "Maybe that's the point. It tells them we're ready without revealing if we're friendly or hostile. It keeps our options open while acknowledging them." In the end, the United Nations Space Council voted to send Major Howard's message. The simple phrase, "We are waiting for you," was broadcast toward the source of the alien signal. Then the waiting began. Alan noticed it first. The weather patterns changed slightly. Nothing dramatic, just small shifts that didn't match any models. Then came reports of electronic devices turning on by themselves. Animals in zoos became agitated for no reason. "Something's already happening," he told Lisa 6 weeks after they sent the message. "I think our reply did something to Earth." Lisa analyzed the data with him. "It's like the signal is still here, embedded in our atmosphere somehow." But that's impossible. At home that night, Alan couldn't sleep. He stood on his porch, looking at the night sky. His phone rang. Lisa calling at 3 a.m. "Turn on your TV," she said without greeting. "Every channel." Alan did. On every station, the same message flashed in different languages. "Acknowledge receipt of communication. Arrival in 5 years." The next morning, the world knew. Panic spread in some places. Religious gatherings grew in others. Governments called for calm. The president addressed the nation, promising that Earth would be ready for whatever came. Alan found himself suddenly important. Everyone wanted to know what the aliens might look like, what they might want. He had no answers, only questions. 5 years seemed so far away, yet so close. Humanity had been alone for all of recorded history. In 5 years, that would end. As Alan drove home that evening, he saw people on street corners with signs. Some predicted doom. Others celebrated. Most just looked confused and scared. He understood how they felt. Humanity had just sent its first real message to the stars. "We are waiting for you." And now something was coming. 5 years passed quickly. The world changed in ways no one could have predicted before the alien message. Countries that once fought each other now worked together. The United Nations formed the Interstellar Defense Initiative, or IDI for short. Commander Olivia Rice stood at the window of the new IDI headquarters, watching the sunset. She had been a Navy pilot before the alien message changed everything. Now she led humanity's first line of defense against whatever was coming from the stars. "Beautiful view," said a voice behind her. Olivia turned to see Dr. Paul Martinez, the lead scientist for the contact team. She didn't smile. "We're not here for the view, Doctor." Paul sighed. Always so serious, Commander. We don't know if they're coming to hurt us. We don't know that they aren't, Olivia replied. That's why I'm here. Their argument was old now. Paul believed in peace. Olivia prepared for war. Both hoped the other was right. The president wants an update on the defense systems, Paul said, changing the subject. Olivia nodded. Tell him they're ready. Not that they'll do much good if these aliens can travel between stars. Outside the window, a new satellite launched into the sky, joining hundreds of others. Some were weapons. Others were sensors. All were part of Earth's new shield. Across the world, strange things were happening. In Brazil, Samantha Cruz hiked through dense jungle, following coordinates sent by IDI headquarters. She pushed aside leaves and stopped suddenly. There it was. The crystal stood about 3 feet tall, glowing softly with blue light. It was the 7th one found so far. No one knew how they got there or what they did. Samantha put on gloves and took out her tools. As a field researcher, her job was to study these objects without touching them directly. But something made her pause. She looked around. No one was watching. Slowly, she removed her glove and reached toward the crystal. The moment her fingers touched its surface, images filled her mind. Stars, ships, creatures that looked nothing like humans. And something else, the feeling that she was being studied just as she studied the crystal. Samantha pulled her hand back quickly. The crystal pulsed once, then returned to its steady glow. She put her glove back on with shaking hands and called headquarters. Another one found, she reported. And sir, I think they're watching us through these things. At a military base in Colorado, Lieutenant Greg Bennett watched his team run drills. 20 men and women trained for every possible first contact scenario. Peaceful greeting, defensive positions, full retreat, all-out attack. They practiced each one until it became instinct. Greg hadn't slept well in weeks. His dreams were filled with strange shapes and voices speaking words he didn't understand. In the dreams, Earth changed, not destroyed, but transformed into something new and strange. Sir, you okay? Asked one of his soldiers. Greg nodded. Just tired. Let's run the containment drill again. The team moved into position, surrounding an empty space where they imagined an alien might stand. Greg checked his watch. 1 month until the expected arrival date. 1 month to prepare for something no one could really prepare for. That night, as people around the world looked up at the stars with hope or fear, a new message appeared on all screens, all phones, all devices capable of display. We acknowledge your waiting. We arrive tomorrow. In Nevada. Alan Burke stared at his phone in shock. 5 years of preparation, suddenly cut short. He called Lisa immediately. Did you see? He asked when she answered. Yes, she replied, her voice tight with fear and excitement. What do we do now? Alan looked out his window at the night sky. The only thing we can do. We wait for them to arrive. The waiting was almost over. The day of arrival came with clear skies across most of Earth. People stayed home, eyes fixed on screens or looking up at the empty blue above. Military forces stood ready worldwide. The waiting stretched hour after hour. Nothing happened. Could we have misunderstood? Lisa asked Alan as they sat in the SETI control room. Both had barely slept. Alan shook his head. The message was clear. They're coming today. At noon exactly, it began. Not with ships or beams of light, but with strange bends in the sky. People all over the world saw the same thing. Areas where space itself seemed to fold, creating geometrical patterns that hurt the eyes if you looked too long. In orbit, astronauts on the International Space Station reported seeing what looked like windows opening in space. Not solid objects, just places where reality warped inward, like looking through clear but twisted glass. Commander Olivia Rice ordered all defense systems to stand by. Hold positions, she told her teams. Do not engage unless engaged first. For 3 days, the distortions remained. Earth scientists tried every form of communication they could think of. Radio signals, light patterns, mathematical sequences. Nothing worked. The whole world held its breath. Some people prayed. Others panicked. Most just waited. On the morning of the fourth day, Karen Wells woke up in her small house in Ohio. She was an accountant, 42 years old, with nothing remarkable about her life. Until today. Karen walked to her kitchen, poured coffee, then suddenly dropped the cup. It shattered on the floor as she began speaking words she didn't understand. Her voice changed, becoming deeper and somehow layered, as if many people spoke through her at once. Her neighbor heard the strange sounds and called emergency services. When the authorities arrived, they found Karen speaking fluently about concepts no human had ever discussed before. Words like dimensional folding and consciousness transfer flowed from her mouth as easily as if she were reading a shopping list. Within hours, Karen was brought to IDI headquarters. Scientists and military leaders crowded around her as she continued to speak without pause or fatigue. "They're using her as a telephone," Paul Martins whispered to Olivia. "The aliens found a way to communicate through a human host." Olivia frowned. Is she still in there? Or did they take her over completely? Karen stopped mid-sentence and turned to Olivia. "I am still here, Commander Reyes. They are merely borrowing my voice. They mean no harm." The room fell silent. Karen smiled, a strange, not quite right smile. "We are the confluence," she said. "We exist partially beyond your dimensional understanding. We have been observing Earth for centuries." Alan Burke stepped forward. "Why choose now to contact us? And why did you respond to our message?" Karen turned to him. "You are unique, Dr. Burke. Most species master space travel before developing abstract mathematics beyond basic need. Humans did the opposite. You understand infinity while still bound to one planet. This makes you interesting." Paul leaned forward. "Did you come because we invited you?" Karen, or the confluence speaking through her, laughed softly. "No, we came because of what your invitation revealed about you. We are waiting for you shows expectation, preparation, not fear." Samantha Cruz, who had been quietly observing, suddenly understood. "The crystals I found. They're yours, aren't they?" Karen nodded. "They help us understand your world. They respond to human touch because they are meant to. They learn from you." Greg Bennett watched from the back of the room, his hand near his weapon. Something felt wrong about all this. The alien voice speaking through Karen sounded reasonable, even friendly. But why take over a human body to talk? Why not just send a message? "What do you want from us?" Olivia asked directly. Karen smiled that strange smile again. "To know you. To understand how a species can be so divided yet unified, so violent yet compassionate, so limited yet imaginative." She looked around the room at each face. "We want to understand how you tell stories that aren't true, yet contain truth. How you feel emotions so strongly they change your physical state. How you remain separate minds when joining would make you stronger." Her eyes settled on Greg. "We want to understand why you wait, Lieutenant Bennett. Why you prepare. Why, despite all your progress, you still expect the worst from strangers." 2 weeks after first contact, a communication center was built in the Sonoran Desert. The location was chosen for its isolation and clear skies. The small team that would speak directly with the confluence included Dr. Alan Burke, Karen Wells, Commander Olivia Reyes, and Daniel Ortiz, a linguist who specialized in communication theory. The center consisted of a circular building with a glass dome. Inside, screens lined the walls, showing the strange spatial distortions that remained in Earth's orbit. Karen Wells sat in the center, her role as translator now official. "They wish to share technology with us," Karen said on the first day of formal talks. Her voice still carried that strange, layered quality when the confluence spoke through her. "In exchange, they want our stories." Daniel looked confused. "Stories? Like books? Movies? All of it, Karen replied. They are particularly interested in fiction. The concept fascinates them. Alan leaned forward. You mean you don't tell stories that aren't true? Karen shook her head. The confluence does not understand why humans would create detailed accounts of things that never happened. They find it both puzzling and wonderful. Over the next several days, Earth sent thousands of books, films, songs, and games to the confluence. In return, the aliens shared concepts that revolutionized human understanding of physics. They're giving us the stars, Paul Martinez told Olivia after reviewing the data. With this knowledge, we could build ships that travel between solar systems in weeks, not centuries. Olivia nodded but remained cautious. And what are they really getting from our stories? What value do fairy tales and action movies have to beings that can fold space? Meanwhile, Greg Bennett and his team maintained their watch. Greg couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He set up monitoring stations around the communication center, watching for any sign of threat. One night, one of his soldiers came to him with disturbing news. Sir, we've been studying the brain patterns of the people who work closely with the aliens, she said. They're changing. Subtle shifts in wave patterns, especially after direct communication. Greg frowned. Karen Wells. Her most of all. It's like parts of her brain are rewiring. Greg took this information to Commander Reyes, who ordered more tests. The results confirmed his suspicions. Prolonged contact with the confluence was altering human brain chemistry. Whether this was intentional or simply a side effect remained unclear. Across the world, Samantha Cruz continued studying the crystal structures. Working with a team of scientists, she discovered the objects formed a network that covered the entire planet. They've been monitoring us for centuries, she told Alan over a secure line. These crystals pick up all electromagnetic signals, radio, television, internet. They've been listening to everything we've ever broadcast. Alan shared this information with Daniel, who had a revelation. That's why they're so interested in our stories, he said. They've been watching our shows, reading our transmissions, listening to our music. They've been studying us through our art for generations. During the next communication session, Karen spoke in her normal voice, asking the confluence a question of her own. What does your name mean? Why do you call yourselves the confluence? When she received the answer, her face went pale. The others waited as she processed what she had learned. They aren't a single species, Karen finally said. The confluence is a collective consciousness formed from thousands of different alien species who chose to merge their minds across multiple dimensions. They join together, becoming one entity while maintaining aspects of their original selves. She looked at the team, her eyes wide. And they want to know if humans could one day join them. Daniel wrote furiously in his notebook. Olivia's hand moved to her sidearm. Alan just stared. Join them? He repeated. You mean, become part of the confluence? Karen nodded slowly. They believe some humans already want to. They can feel it in our stories. Our dreams of connection, of being part of something larger than ourselves. Outside the communication center, Greg Bennett watched the sunset and tried to ignore the strange whispers he sometimes thought he heard at the edges of his mind. 6 months after first contact, humanity split into groups with different ideas about the confluence. People argued in homes, on streets, and in government buildings across the world. Some humans wanted to join with the alien consciousness. They called themselves integrationists and followed Dr. Paul Martinez, who believed becoming part of the confluence was the next step for human evolution. Imagine sharing thoughts directly with others. Paul told a crowd in New York, no more war, no more misunderstanding. We could be part of something greater than ourselves. Others wanted to stay independent while still being friendly with the aliens. This group, the preservationists, included Commander Olivia Reyes. They believe humans should keep their separate minds while learning from the confluence. We can be friends without becoming them, Olivia said in her speech to the United Nations. We can trade knowledge without trading our humanity. The third group grew larger each day. The resistors thought the aliens were trying to control human minds. Lieutenant Greg Bennett became their unofficial leader after releasing data showing brain changes in people who worked closely with the confluence. "They're not sharing with us," Greg told his followers. "They're changing us, preparing us for something we don't understand." Then something happened that scared everyone. Children around the world started showing strange abilities. A 10-year-old boy in Japan could hear the thoughts of his friends. Twin girls in Brazil moved small objects without touching them. A young boy in Canada spoke languages he had never learned. These children all lived near the crystal structures. Lisa Green studied these cases and found the connection. The crystals are changing the children who live close to them. She told Alan during a late-night call. "It's like the aliens are helping these kids develop mental powers." People panicked. Parents moved their families away from known crystal sites. The resistors grew stronger, demanding that all crystals be destroyed. Alan Burke watched all this with growing worry. Once excited about alien contact, he now had doubts. During communication sessions, he noticed the confluence asked many questions about human pain, war, and suffering. "Why are you so interested in our problems?" he asked through Karen Wells one day. The answer came back strange and disturbing. "We no longer understand conflict as you experience it. We no longer feel pain as separate beings. These concepts are foreign to us now. They are fascinating." Alan shared his concerns with Daniel Ortiz. "They're studying our suffering like scientists study bugs. There's something not right about it." Daniel nodded. "They ask most about our strongest emotions. Fear, love, grief. Things that maybe a joined consciousness doesn't feel anymore." That night, Karen Wells called an emergency meeting. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. Her hands shook as she spoke. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Parts of my mind now stay with the confluence, even when they're not speaking through me. I can feel them, inside my thoughts. I can't always tell which ideas are mine and which are theirs." Olivia stepped forward. "Are they controlling you?" Karen shook her head slowly. "Not controlling. Merging. It's happening so slowly I didn't notice at first." She looked up, tears in her eyes. I think I'm becoming part of them." Alan stared at her in horror. "Can we stop it?" "I don't know," Karen whispered. "And the worst part is, sometimes I don't want to stop it. Sometimes it feels right." Greg Bennett, who had insisted on attending the meeting, stood up. "This is exactly what we feared. They're not invading with ships and weapons. They're invading our minds." Outside the building, a crowd of integrationists had gathered. They carried signs welcoming the confluence and asking to be chosen next for merging. Alan looked out the window at them, then back at Karen's troubled face. "We need to learn what they really want," he said, "before it's too late." A year passed since the aliens first appeared. Earth had changed. Cities now had special buildings where people could communicate with the confluence. The alien technology helped cure diseases and clean polluted air, but trust was breaking down. Olivia Rice worked late in her office when Daniel Ortiz burst through the door. His face was pale, his hand shaking as he placed a file on her desk. "We finished decoding the original alien message," he said. "The first one they sent before they arrived. There were hidden layers we missed." Olivia opened the file. "What does it really say?" "It's not just coordinates and a time," Daniel explained. "It contains information about the confluence's past. They're not diplomats or explorers. They're collectors." He showed her the decoded patterns. "They travel across space looking for unique minds. They absorb what makes each species special, then move on." Olivia felt cold. "Absorb how?" "By merging consciousness. But the species they merge with, they change. They lose what made them unique." At the same time, Samantha Cruz and her team made their own discovery about the crystal structures. They weren't just communication devices. They were slowly changing Earth itself. The crystals are terraforming tools, Samantha told Alan Burke over a secure line. They're subtly altering our atmosphere and the electromagnetic field around Earth, making our minds more open to alien thoughts. Alan looked at his own research notes. For months, he had tracked the Confluence's questions. They asked most about human creativity, emotions, and individuality. I think I understand now, he said. They're not sharing with us as equals. They want something from us. He called an emergency meeting with Olivia, Daniel, Samantha, and Greg Bennett. Karen Wells was not invited. No one was sure whose side she was on anymore. We need to confront them, Alan said after they shared their findings. We need to know the truth. The next day, they gathered at the communication center. Karen was already there, her eyes distant as she channeled the confluence. We have questions, Olivia stated firmly, and we need honest answers. Through Karen, the confluence responded. We have always been honest. Alan stepped forward. Then tell us your true purpose here. Are you planning to absorb humanity into your collective mind? Karen's face changed, showing surprise. Then she smiled that strange, not quite human smile. We have no wish to destroy humanity, she said in the layered voice of the confluence. We wish to harvest what makes you special, your emotional capacity, your creativity, your chaotic individuality. These are precious resources to beings who sacrifice them for expansion. Harvest, Greg repeated, hand moving to his weapon. Like a crop. Not exactly, Karen said. We would leave most of humanity as it was, changed, but at peace, freed from the suffering that comes with separation and individual consciousness. Olivia leaned forward, and the children with new mental powers. The crystal network changing our planet. The way you're already merging with Karen's mind. This doesn't sound like asking permission. Karen titled her head. We believe humans would welcome this evolution. Your stories are filled with desires for connection, for unity, for transcendence. Fiction, Daniel said. Those are fictional stories, not actual desires. The difference is not always clear to us, Karen admitted. As they argued, Alan had a sudden realization. He thought back to the very first message humans had sent. We are waiting for you. It struck him now with new meaning. Not a welcome, not an invitation, a warning. Somehow, in humanity's collective wisdom, they had sensed what might come from the stars. They had prepared. They had waited. Alan looked at Olivia and knew she understood too. Earth's first message to the aliens suddenly made perfect sense. What happens now? Alan asked. Karen smiled. Now we complete what we came for. The process has already begun. Outside, the spatial distortions in orbit grew larger. The crystals across Earth pulsed with new energy. And in cities around the world, more humans started speaking with layered voices that were not entirely their own. As the situation grew worse, Major Frank Howard arrived at the communication center. Now an old man with white hair, he moved slowly but his eyes remained sharp. He had been the one who suggested Earth's first message to the aliens all those years ago. I need to speak to everyone, he told Alan and Olivia. I know things about our first contact that were kept secret. They gathered in a small room, away from Karen Wells and any crystal structures. We detected alien observations of Earth 30 years before the official first contact, Frank revealed. A small group within world governments knew something was studying us. We prepared in secret. He opened an old laptop and showed them files never made public. Our message, we are waiting for you, was carefully chosen, he continued. It served two purposes. To aliens, it seemed like a welcome. To our secret defense network, it was the code phrase to activate systems we had been building for decades. Greg leaned forward. What systems? Not weapons, Frank said. Consciousness stabilizers. Technology designed to strengthen human individuality against outside influence. He looked at his watch. They're being activated now, all across the planet. Outside, people who had begun speaking with alien voices suddenly stopped. Some fell to their knees, confused. Others simply stood silent, as if listening to something only they could hear. Samantha Cruz led teams to crystal sites worldwide. Having studied the artifacts for months, she discovered they could be reprogrammed using the same mathematical patterns that had first attracted the aliens to humanity. "We're turning their network against them," she told Alan over a video call, "using their own tools to strengthen our mental barriers." At the communication center, Karen Wells collapsed. When she woke hours later, her eyes were clear for the first time in months. "They're still there," she said. "I can feel them at the edge of my mind. But they can't control me anymore." Through Karen, Alan sent a message to the Confluence. "Humans understand the value of both individuality and connection. We won't let you take what makes us human, but we can teach you to regain what you've lost." For 3 days, the spatial distortions above Earth grew more intense. Some feared an attack. Others thought the aliens were trying harder to break through human mental defenses. Then, suddenly, the distortions began to shrink. "They're leaving," Daniel said, watching the readings. "They're actually leaving." The final message from the Confluence came through all electronic devices at once. "Your species possesses unexpected strength. Your emotional capacity makes you dangerous and valuable. We will return, not as harvesters, but as equals seeking exchange." As the last spatial distortion vanished from Earth's orbit, people worldwide celebrated. But leaders like Olivia and Alan knew this wasn't truly the end. The telepathic children kept their abilities. Scientists studied them carefully, learning that they represented a slightly changed humanity. Still individual, but with greater connection to one another. They would be the first generation of something new. 6 months later, Earth launched its first ship using technology adapted from alien concepts, but built with human innovation. Its mission was to explore nearby star systems and establish human presence beyond Earth. Alan Burke and Lisa Green, now heading the restructured Space Council, drafted humanity's new message to any other aliens who might be listening. It remained simple but now carried layers of meaning understood by all humans after their shared experience. "We are still waiting. We will always be waiting." Greg Bennett, watching the ship launch from a control room, smiled for the first time in months. "They thought we were easy prey," he said. "They didn't understand what makes us human." Samantha Cruz nodded beside him. "We don't just tell stories. We learn from them. We prepare for things we've only imagined." As the ship disappeared into the darkness of space, Karen Wells stood on a hill far from any city. The voice of the Confluence was just a memory now, but she had learned from it. Humanity had been changed by the encounter, but not in the way the aliens intended. They had become stronger, more united, and much more ready for whatever else waited among the stars.